Pitch to Pro is the official podcast of USL Arkansas. This will be our platform to tell our story about the club and the special place that we call home, Northwest Arkansas. This is a journey. We want to bring you along for the ride. We'll share what's going on behind the curtain, help educate the community at large about soccer, our league, and give updates on the progress of the club along the way. Together, we'll explore and unpack our journey to professional soccer, the magic that is NWA, our community, and talk all things soccer from on the pitch to behind the scenes, telling the story of our club. Pitch to Pro podcast is proudly sponsored by podcastvideos.com. Podcastvideos.com is Northwest Arkansas's premier podcast recording studio. Equipped with industry-leading equipment, the recording studio and services save you time, money, and hassle. They are dedicated to helping you create, record, and publish high-quality podcasts for your audience. Be sure to check them out today at podcastvideos.com. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Pitch to Pro podcast. My name is Wes Harris. I am your host, managing director for USL Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas's professional soccer club, playing in the United Soccer League. Welcome back, everybody. We have an awesome episode for you guys today. Today, I'm super excited to welcome my esteemed guest here, Mr. Scott Marksberry, who is going to be our head coach for the U20 USL Arkansas Academy team that you guys may have seen that we launched a couple weeks ago and just completed some tryouts. And I thought it'd be an awesome, opportune time to bring in Mr. Scott and just kind of talk more about the team. We saw some incredible talent out there in the last week or so, and just talk about the goals, the league, the competition that we'll play against, and just kind of dig a little bit deeper into the U20 team. So, Scott, welcome.
Hey, appreciate it. Thank you for having me. And excited to dig into this.
So let's kind of go back and take a step back for a second. So this team and what we are trying to do with it stems from a broader issue that Northwest Arkansas has been dealing with in the youth soccer community for some time.
Yeah.
But it's continuing to, as we continue to elevate the game and elevate the level in Northwest Arkansas, which, you know, you've obviously been a part of at your time at Sporting, and others have contributed to as well with all the youth clubs in the area. You guys have done, all of you have done a fantastic job of raising the game and raising the level of the game. But that continues to exacerbate the problem. So I'll let you explain what that is, and kind of that then opens the door for, well, what could we do about that? And that's part of what this U20 team is in terms of a solution. So I'll let you talk a little bit about the problem.
Yeah. So I think what we've seen in our community is we've done a really good job of engaging players, youth in the game, and getting the initial stages of player development right. Mm-hmm. We have good technical players. We have athletic players. We have players who learn how to compete. Where we tend to struggle is at the oldest age groups, and especially specifically on the boys' side, as we get to those oldest age groups, the game changes, and there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of decisions, there's a lot that needs to be understood in the game. And the structure that we have available to us in Northwest Arkansas makes it a little bit tricky because we don't have enough quality spread around that we can get good competition locally that forces players to have to think at a higher level. So it's almost too easy to win. And so we don't have to develop and we don't have to continue to grow. And when we go outside of our community, it becomes a massive travel burden to get to those spaces, and it becomes a financial issue at some level. Mm-hmm. And so we sort of hit this plateau maybe at age 15 or 16, where they've developed really well up to that point. And then at age 18, 19, we essentially have the same players, just bigger, stronger, faster versions of the same players. Right. And so that's where this idea came from. Can we figure out a way that we solve that problem where from 15 to 19 now, they're not just bigger, stronger, faster, we're developing a higher level of player over those kind of critical development ages for the players who are really looking for that.
Yeah. And then that's, I mean, you know, that is a credit to kind of us as a community getting to that point where we're ready to take that next step where, you know, it's a problem, but it's also a good problem to have to try to solve for. It's not a good problem if you're losing your players, right? Which was the challenge.
Yeah.
Right. But it's in terms of the signal that, hey, we're ready as a community, as a soccer community, to try to take that next step. And that was what really was. I mean, this was always something, to your point, on longer term vision. You talked about it in terms of that vision on player pathway and helping build that pathway to pro. And that's something that we heard from the coaching community. That's something that we heard from player community in Northwest Arkansas, from parents. And so we knew that was something that we wanted to build. I think for us, I'm super happy that we were able to figure this out. And again, this is now a USL Arkansas program that will continue to live on under USL Arkansas. And as we look to bring in our first teams, this will be the pillar upon which we build out what does that pathway look like. It starts here. And so this is something that we're so proud of and so incredibly excited about, because I know that we're starting from a great place, and being able to truly make this about our total community and really invite all those players in, which I'll let you talk about, because we saw that at tryouts. We saw that at evaluations, and it was so incredible to watch and see. And so I'll let you talk about that too, but talk a little bit about, to wrap up, this was something that the community needed. There was a need, and this is helping to solve. It's not going to completely eliminate it, but it's definitely providing an option in our community that is going to be a long-term pillar of something that we're trying to build here as we grow together. So talk a little bit about evaluations, tryouts. What are they? How do they go? And why was it, hey, we're doing this, why did we need to act quickly? Tell people a little bit about the process there that may not know about the whole May 25th date and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. So the timing was always going to be tricky. Part of that was the idea of launching this U19 at the time. We were thinking U19s, launching a U19 in the UPSL, which we can unpack a little bit later on.
Talk about that, yeah.
But getting to that space and then realizing that we needed to come up with a plan for how can we get from this idea to an actual team. But we had this May 25th date that's an interesting date that's out there. And that May 25th date is essentially in the youth soccer space. Any clubs that fall under the umbrella of the Arkansas Soccer Association, which is our division of U.S. youth soccer in the state, they have this May 25th date that begins the club's ability to make offers to players. And players commit pretty quickly to that.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to step into this space and be, as the USL club, trying to come in and build something, and at the end of May or in June, start offering kids who have already committed to another club.
Correct.
And then it's very disruptive to the teams. Now a club thinks that they've built a team with 18 guys, and 4 of them decide to leave and go to the USL club. That's difficult for them to process. And so we wanted to roll it out as quickly as we could, which required a lot of collaboration, a lot of work from a lot of people. And I was amazed, honestly, that it all came together the way that it did, to make sure that we could roll it out and we could run tryouts prior to, at least begin those evaluations prior to May 25th. We ended up adding one extra date after May 25th.
Right.
Because it was such short notice. And we didn't want to say a Monday and a Wednesday night, either you're there or you don't, or you miss this opportunity. And so we extended it to Memorial Day, which created a new problem with the storms and things that happened here.
Yeah.
But when we moved to Memorial Day, that gave several players an opportunity who didn't come to the first 2 days. We had a lot of new players and new players who
did well
are going to be in the mix for this team.
Yeah.
When we get there. And so that was the urgency piece, was to not disrupt things other clubs were doing, to try to meet this deadline with USU Soccer and the Arkansas Soccer Association, and give players and families an opportunity to understand, where do I stand with the USL team? Where do I stand with my current club team? And how do I want to process all of those pieces?
Exactly. And that's something that, a
a lot of folks may not truly understand. So I wanted to unpack that a little bit, which was great. So we were able to pull that together, which there's a whole lot of people that we should thank. But just if you were involved in any way, thank you.
Thank you.
But it went great, at least from my perspective as a spectator and watching everything. But you being involved in the actual tryouts themselves and really evaluating players. Tell folks a little bit about what you guys saw. How did you guys set it up? There was a lot of players. On short notice, a lot of players. We had well over 100 that were registered, which is incredible.
Yeah.
The number's probably even higher than that. So tell people a little bit about what you saw. How'd you guys organize it? What were you looking for? That kind of thing.
Yeah, so I think over the course of the 3 sessions, we had probably close to 130, maybe upwards of 130 players who came out. It was an amazing response. And for people who follow soccer in Northwest Arkansas, it was a who's who of youth players in Northwest Arkansas. I mean, I won't say every player that would be well known in the community showed up, but the vast majority of players who are award winners, recognized in high school soccer, a strong history of club soccer, they were there. They were a part of this. And so setting up an evaluation to give appropriate time and attention to that many players is tricky.
That's difficult.
And again, we had so much great support between Coach Ryan Williams, Coach Caesar coming out. And then we had, coaches from some of the local colleges that came out. 2 coaches from John Brown University came in and participated and just helped us with evaluations. Other coaches from clubs, we just invited in, hey, we just need more eyeballs out here. Yeah. Can you come and participate? And so it really helped us to kind of spread out the load of evaluating players. The first night, I will say, we came off of the field as a group of coaches, and we essentially, we really focused on about 80 players that night. And we had some of the younger players that we split off into separate age groups.
Right.
And we really keyed in on 80 players. And we came out that night and said, man, I don't know how we're going to make any decisions here. There was so much quality, so much pace. And there was just, it was impressive. It was mind-blowing to watch what happened on Monday night. Wednesday, when we got to Wednesday, we decided, okay, we need to make the session a little more tactical. And so let's set up a session that is tactical, no coaching still, but just set parameters that allow players to show what they understand about the game. And it became a really interesting experiment. Monday was very technical and competitive. Wednesday required players to think and position themselves in spaces and execute within spaces. And we saw that deficiency. We saw what Northwest Arkansas has struggled with. And we talked to the players about it and said, we see it now. We saw Monday, man, you guys look fantastic. And Wednesday was just harder. It was a harder session for them to navigate. But that's why we did this, right? We did this to answer that problem. And so that night we were able to narrow down a little bit more and say, okay, here are guys that are probably more on the radar for this U20 team. And then let's separate players over here who maybe aren't just quite there yet. But now if you're in this pool, it's going to be a lot easier to stand out and get moved over. And so that night we were constantly moving players between the groups. Who are the players from maybe the more developmental group that stand out? And let's get them over with this group that's something more aligned with what the first team will probably be. Still had 40 players in it.
Right.
And then as we started to move players, we started to get a better picture. When we came into Monday, then we went bigger. We went 11v11. Yep. We gave one little tactical instruction about something we wanted to see, because we wanted to see how players process information and can apply it in a game situation. The new players that showed up Monday that weren't there the previous week, they made it a little trickier for us,
right?
But in a good way, where now we had players who were clearly in the mix of guys that we want to be a part of this USL Arkansas team. And so as we played out the Memorial Day session, again, we were able to divide into fields. We were able to move players freely between the two, give players looks. And then as we got to a group of players on Monday that we said, no, we know 100% these guys are in, we actually removed them from the session.
Yep.
And we pulled them out completely so that we could start to really focus in on some of the others. And so over the course of the Monday session, we started identifying players, and we started having some conversations with guys right there on the spot so that we could fill in and make sure that we gave attention to all those guys that, man, we're close.
Yeah.
We're in the mix. And again, just so much quality, so many great kids. I mean, the attitudes, the conversations we had, our community and the family should be really proud of what those young men, how they communicated, the way they carried themselves, the way they conducted themselves. It was total class for all 3 days, great communication, just really fun interaction. And we got to hear stories from kids that, when you come off the field, you just go, man, this is why we needed this, because of that kid right there.
Right.
Is why we needed this program.
Yeah. No, that's great. And it was awesome to watch. I was at all 3 sessions and was able to watch and see. And like I said, I was really impressed with just the quality that was there. But also, to your point, on that Wednesday session, you could definitely see, okay, we still have a little bit of work here. And I think some of that comes with just a tryout and an eval, and you're playing with players that you haven't played with in a while or don't know at all. But there's also some things it's like, okay, decision-making of your own, let alone what other players are doing, but decision-making on your own in certain instances and key things. So, and that's pieces that, to your point, that's part of why this team needs to be here. Those players are ready, and they need to be able to take that next step. And they need that small extra 1%, which makes a lot of difference at that next level. So this team, this U20 team, we are going to play in a whole lot of different things. So we'll play in USL Academy competitions, so USL Academy Cup, potentially a couple others that they may be adding, national different competitions that they may be adding. We'll play, maybe organize another kind of a weekend with some other USL Academies where we bring a few together and do a mini tournament. And then league play, we'll kind of play, in the UPSL. So talk a little bit about who are we going to play, talk about these competitions, who are we going to play, some of the teams that are using this model that has kind of become not necessarily a standard, but you're seeing it more and more from these elite academies across multiple leagues that we might be able to kind of play against and kind of stack ourselves up against and see how that's going to shake out. So talk a little bit about those.
Yeah. So the UPSL, the United Premier Soccer League, will be our primary competitive platform. And the UPSL is the 4th division of the U.S. soccer pyramid. Mm-hmm. And we kind of break down. There's a few leagues that reside in that 4th division space, but the UPSL is one of those leagues. What's been interesting about the UPSL over the past couple of years is that the MLS academies, the proper MLS academies, Sporting Kansas City, St. Louis City, FC Dallas, Orlando City, Inter Miami, they have started moving their U19 teams into the UPSL as their primary competitive platform as well. Yeah. And so as we've started to see this alignment of MLS U19 academies, that was part of the prompting of why we would choose that league as well. Well, can we find, a group of players here in Northwest Arkansas who we want to align with MLS academies and the U19 level? And so when I said earlier we started at the U19 space, that's kind of what we had in mind was, hey, let's bring U19s, let's align with the U19 model that's out there in MLS, and let's play in the same league they're playing in. Let's play against those teams. Let's get games with those teams. So the UPSL becomes a primary league, and that's a league that runs fall and spring. Yep. They have a fall season, spring season. They have postseason national tournaments. These MLS academies are competing right there in the finals and the semifinals of those postseason events. So on top of the UPSL, as we started processing, how do we get extra games for these teams? The first place that I actually went was to the MLS academies and said, hey, we're also going to be playing in the UPSL. Could we get a game with your team that's not in our conference? St. Louis City, for example. Can we get a game with those teams? And so as we started to call around to some of these MLS academies, we're getting really favorable feedback from them about being able to add some games with those clubs as well. The extension of this from UPSL was part of the USL Arkansas alignment, is that now gets us access to USL Academy events. Mm-hmm. And the USL Academy is growing like crazy right now. It's a huge growth point for the youth game. They're what they've done that's really unique is they're helping players find a pathway into pro academies, lower level pro leagues. And the USL Academy system has become a really interesting model for that. And so you see players go to USL Academy Cup in Florida in March, and they're getting recruited by professional academies, both in the U.S. and overseas, that they want those players to come into their youth space. And in some cases, there's financial implications of that. And in others, it's opportunity for these players. So to align with that and get into the USL Academy space is really important for our group as well.
Yep.
That USL Academy space is where this became a U20.
Right.
That was consistent with the USL Academy model that's out there. And so that opened some doors for us to decide to change to U20, which was a very late change for us. And I really wasn't sure how that was going to work out. But it's been really interesting. That's been maybe the most interesting late change that happened, was what the interest level has looked like from that group, that 2005 birth year group that said, man, if you'll take me, I want to do this. And I have a college offer here, or I was planning to do this next, but if I can do this, I want to stay. I want to be in Northwest Arkansas. I want to be part of the first group.
Some of those best players were in that 05 kind of age group that now have an interesting decision to try to navigate. But yeah, I think it was important for us to obviously align with, USL Academy, and that was the U20 in conversations with the league at kind of, as we were trying to throw this all together in quick order. And I'm glad that we did, because, one, it aligns ourselves with the kind of the USL Academy model, which obviously we are in that league. We need to try to do that. And we are, and we will do those things and but then it unlocks those doors that we can participate in all those different USL Academy competitions that we talked about. And so it's going to be this kind of mix and match, some friendlies. We'll, potentially look at, some collegiate programs as well for some friendlies, in the area that, we can reach out to as well and get some good competition. And so I think it's great that we'll kind of get competition and be able to stack ourselves up against some USL Academy, sister programs, if you will, and then also some MLS Academy type competition, as well as some collegiate competition. We're really going to be able to mix and match here in terms of, and then some semi-pro competition, obviously, in the UPSL.
Yeah.
And so being able to really test ourselves on a couple of different fronts with some great competition all the way throughout in some different formats is really going to be fun and exciting to be able to challenge ourselves and get better.
Yeah.
And
I think the college games, or in one case that we've already kind of almost fully locked in, a match with another USL Academy club on a college campus that's going to be hosted by a college campus. Yeah. And so the coaches said, hey, we can't necessarily play you at that time of the year, but we'd love to see you, and we want to see your players. And so come and play here. Play at our place.
There you go.
And we'll host it. We'll put it together. We'll get you in the locker rooms, the whole deal. We'll give you a campus tour if you want it. So just opening up those doors to our players.
Yeah.
Some will be on the college pathway, and they want that. Others, we had players this week say, man, school is hard for me. I don't see myself going to college. I see myself going into the workplace. But if there's an opportunity for me to try to continue playing first before I move into the workplace, great. I'd love that opportunity. And so I think that the USL matches, the MLS matches, it opens up more doors and a variety of doors to our players to just, let's find what's the best fit and see if we can, let's see what works. Let's see what sticks when we throw it all up there.
So here's also the fun part about this is this team will be the first team to wear our crest, colors, name. They will be the first ones. And that's super fun and exciting. And they will be, exactly what we expect of our first team in terms of culture and building that.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about how, this is going to be something, the way that you guys train and practice is going to be different than what they're used to. This is not a club team experience. This is that next level. So talk a little bit about that and how we build that. And culture is so important. And, you're going to be representing the pro club. And our name and our colors, again, still coming, guys. We're working through it. We're workshopping it. We're really, really close. I promise. It is coming. But these guys will be the first ones to wear it.
Yeah.
So that's an exciting, little bit of this as well.
It is. And when we announced that out at the tryout, you could sense the response. You could feel the response. I mean, there was a lot of excitement around that. And as we've been in conversations with players after evaluations, that's been a talking point in almost every one of those conversations. Like, I want to be in the first group to wear the crest. I want to be in the first group to wear the jersey. Players are excited about that piece for sure. And in turn, we're making sure that we let these guys know that means that you bear responsibility with this.
Right.
You don't get to wear that and act like a fool and do things the way that you want to do them, or maybe the way you've done them in the past if it's inconsistent with the mission, vision, values of what USL Arkansas is trying to build.
Exactly.
And so we're working hard on that and setting a good tone. And in fact, a conversation that we had with a player, it turned almost fully to that. It was a whole conversation about culture and about the expectation and about the buy-in and those pieces. And man, it was exciting to hear this player responding and saying, that's why I want this. I want to be a part of this. I had this other opportunity, but I want to be a part of this because I want that culture. I want to have those demands on me. I want to have that expectation, and I want to do it in my community. I was born here. I was raised here. I love this place, and I want to represent Northwest Arkansas by trying to meet those standards every time I step out on the field.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, I can't wait. Talk a little bit about, so when do we start playing? When do we start playing some matches? What do we think?
Yeah, so I think our first matches will probably be early August.
Okay.
And that's when we'll really kick off games. We'll go through August, and then league play for the UPSL will start in September. Okay. So our August will be more of friendlies, college preseason matches, other pro academies, and we'll get as much alignment as we can. We're building that schedule right now. And then the league schedule starts in September. It'll go through September, October, and into November. And then we're looking at some of the showcase events and some of these USL Academy and how are we going to align in the wintertime and into the spring with what we do. But training will begin before that.
Yeah.
So we're in the process of making offers. We're in the process of having conversations. It's not done yet. But I think we're making really great progress, and the response has been fantastic from the boys in that. And that's a question every one of them asks. When do we start training? Yeah. I said, guys, we're going to start soon. Yeah. Trust me, we're going to get this thing going, and we're going to get fitness that we take from what we expect out of a normal youth club and say, no, this is fitness required out of pro academy. Yep. And technical work from a youth club and say, no, it's technical work for a pro academy. Mm-hmm. And just stepping up the expectation, the standard for these boys. It'll be a big change, I think, for some of them. But I think they're excited about it. I think they're ready for it. And I think they're looking forward to that. They want to be pushed. Yeah. That's what we find. Players want to be pushed. They want to have high expectations and high demands. Yeah. And this is definitely going to offer that.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, that's the goal and that's the aim, is to try to help offer that here locally in NWA, provide that solution. Let's keep our talent in NWA as much as we possibly can.
Yes.
And this is just the first step. Yeah. Just the first step. And so thank you again, Scott. You've been an awesome guest. Appreciate you giving people a peek under the hood here on the U20 team and what we can expect. And we can't wait to see you guys out on the field.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great year for the boys and really for the entire community.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate you.